Good morning, one and all. My name is Vijay from CSIT branch. My topic is time complexity of loop with powers. Time complexity of loop with powers. A power p equals to n, where p equals to log a base a to n. A log bn equals to n power log b log base b a. Log base a into n equals to log base b n by log base b into a. The closed form is the solution for the summation. It is an expression that is equivalent to the summation but does not have any sigma in it. We need the closed form in order to find zero for the summation. Techniques for solving summations. Terminology. Summation term, summation variable. Example, summation term, case summation variable, independent case. Term in summation does not have the variable of the summation. Pull constant in format front of summations. Break summations into summations. Drop lower order term from summations term. Example, 10 keys lower order compared to k power 2. Use approximation by integrals for increasing or decreasing f of k. Removed, not required. This is in execution. Time complexity of function definitions and function calls. Time complexity for function definitions and functions calls. Time complexity for a function definition can only depend on the data passed as an argument. Example for int count of int number comma int t comma int v. In the TC expression O, we can only have variable names that are parameters. Example O of t plus v is okay because both s and v are parameters. Example O of n is wrong because there is no n in the list of parameters. Variables that represent a number, typically integer. Example, size of array, size of data record, max value in array. It is wrong to say zero numbers because numbers is an entire array. What is numbers? Remember that time complexity in the end should give a quantity. Define new variables. I can use the names that are not among the function's parameters, but I have clearly defined term them which respect to the input data. Example, I can say O of n where n is number of elements in AR. Here n is not a parameter of count, but I have defined what n represents with respect to numbers. Time complexity for a function call is based on the time complexity of the function definition and the arguments passed when called. Example for a function declaration header where we are told the function definition TC like below. When called, we replace the S with whatever data is passed in the function call. To understand why, we simply substitute the corresponding argument variables in the TC, where is a discussion at the assume that O of 5 square time complexity of the above function comes with from the detailed instructions count. The detailed count becomes 7m square plus 12m equals plus 9, which is O of m square. Solve the examples with string. What is the time complexity of the function definitions? We have to solve the strings. Time complexity for loops and time complexity for general. This is loops terminology and loop variable that controls the loop, where constant time complexity does not depend on the data size. This is change of variable for I equals to 1, I less than or equals to n, I equals to I plus 1, where I takes consecutive values. When the variable in a loop does not take consecutive values, it becomes harder to calculate the following. One is how many iterations and loops does, and two is the time complexity for the entire loop. We will use a change of variable to write the original loop variable as a function of another variable that does take consecutive values. Example 7 into where into takes consecutive values of 0, 1, 2, 3, and so on, and by 7. Another way to this and most common loops that appear in the code generate values from either an arithmetic series or geometric one. With the change of variable, we identify the series. Change of variable math programming arithmetic series. This is one. And second is change of variable math by programming geometric series. And this is time complexity of nested loops special cases solution. Time complexity of sequential loops. The actual size of data being processed by the first loop is right is left plus one in applications. Example, binary search or merge sort. This quantity often results in a fraction example of the amount of the data in the previous iteration. If multiple variables appear in the next time complexity, there may be more than one domination term. Example, the time complexity of the above code. Example 2, insertion short time complexity and time complexity of nested loops. Keep multiplication constant for dominant term. Solve the innermost loop and use its time complexity in the calculation of the time complexity of the next outer loop and so on. So note that we solve T first then K. Thank you.